It's about what you're willing to do.
Young Aaron Nagler. Haven't wanted to raise his bike.
100%, absolutely. But I will say, he owns it, right? He's a diehard, and he is like completely in his feelings for why he doesn't want a Raven touching his bike.
Now, please welcome from Cheesehead TV, Aaron Nagler and Bill Schmid.
Carry the G Radio coming at you live. Aaron Nagler here in New York City. Bill Schmid in the greater Milwaukee area. Man in the decks at the iHeart Metroplex. Bill Schmid, how the hell are you, man?
I am doing fantastic, Nags. How the heck are you doing here today on this fine day? It's we wish that we were. It's strange when we're coming in here talking after an hour. We hadn't done this in a while. It is weird to have a little bit of a disappointing backdrop of a very, very exciting day that we're about to have here on Carry the G Radio.
I mean, we're going to carry the G regardless.
Always do.
Win, loss.
Damn straight.
Wind or rain will not keep us from our appointed rounds, something like that. But, Billy, it's interesting because this game happened like a year ago, or at least that's what it
does
feels
feel
like
that
now,
way.
you know, and we're turning the page, getting ready for the Seattle game on Sunday night. So I find myself in a different spot, Billy. I'm thinking, last night stirred up a bit of a hornet's nest over there on the X machine by this is an observation I made. And some people were on board. Some people really hated me for it. And I'm just, I'm gonna start the show with it, Billy, because that's
now we're talking. Okay, let's go. It's pissing people off today on this beautiful
or maybe I'd love to hear from the smart, good-looking listeners out there about
let's go. Let's do it.
This thought that I had while watching the Chiefs game the other night. And they're winning Super Bowls. Pat Mahomes is the biggest star in the league, et cetera, et cetera. And you look at the crowd at that Chiefs game. Billy, there's no Chargers blue. There's no opponent section. It's all a sea of red. Just a sea of red. And my buddy Matt Ramage was saying, when Holmgren, Favre, and Reggie were all coming up, there was no such thing as entitled town because it was all on the come up, right? And the Chiefs are in that moment. It's all new. They were not good, and then they got good, and now they're in that first flush of, we're a dynasty. We're winning Super Bowls, all red in the crowd. Now, green and gold package, it's not singling either one of these folks, these groups out, don't seem to have any problem selling their tickets, getting purple or blue or whatever colors there at Lambeau out other than green and gold. And I'm like, can we reclaim that? Can we get back to it? And I know people are all, that's just the NFL now. Well, yeah, but not in Kansas City. They're just all showing up for the games. And that's how Lambeau used to be. Now, yes, selling tickets has always gone on. Certainly, there's going to be pilgrimages made by opposing fans. I understand that's going to happen. I get it. But in such wide swaths, like huge chunks of seats taken up by opposing fans, Packers got to get a handle on that. Like there needs to be some kind. And I got responses like, well, I can't get to as many games as I'd like, so I sell the ones. Like, if you can't get to the games, man, don't have season tickets. You can get, if you want to go to games, it's easy to get a game day ticket. Like, you can do that day of the game, let alone leading up to a game.
Well, definitely is now. Like the accessibility to tickets at Lambeau Field over the last 12 to 15 years, I guess I would say, has drastically gone up. Like the availability, as you mentioned, day of game, absolutely. You can find deals. You can find good tickets. You can find the opportunity to get in. I get it. I do think you see it in much more in different droves when it's at Lambeau Field and it is the pilgrimage that many people are going to want to have. Is Arrowhead Stadium fantastic? Totally is.
Absolutely.
Is it a bucket list? I don't know. Right? Like, I don't necessarily know that.
Not in the same way. You're right.
Yeah, not in the same way, not in the same vein. However, it's one of the awesome stadiums, and to see Patrick Mahomes,
and
you
the
would think would be
out of sight in Kansas City.
No doubt about it. So, like, I totally get the point of contention and the frustration. I don't necessarily know if you want to go down the slope, though, of like reprimanding season ticket holders for not going to a certain amount of games. I don't know how much they want to do that, but maybe they do.
It'd be real easy for the Packers.
Oh, it's easy to do. You can track it for
frequent
sure.
resellers,
Yeah.
tickets revoked, done. I just think it's unfortunate, It's so unfortunate that you look at she says it was so striking the other night, like just a sea of red. And that used to be Lambeau, a sea of green. But that's it's all gone by the wayside now.
Well, in like even, and I'm interested to see how it is coming up this weekend in Seattle, because Seattle had always been one of the most vaunted places to play football. Now, I don't know if the cappuccino capital of the world still has the same vibe and the same energy in that building, because they're 3-4 at home and they've lost some very winnable games on their own turf. And I see a lot of fans there. A lot of Bills fans definitely when they were out there.
SoCal, Packer backers, that group, they always travel on the West Coast wherever the Packers are playing. No doubt. I got to think they'll probably invade the Seahawks Stadium. I don't know if it'll be at the same level, though. Billy, I'm talking about seas of blue when the Lions come to town, seas of purple when the Vikings are in town. You can't, it's frustrating, man. It's just frustrating. Like, I get it's a division game and division opponents, they're going to try. I get it. The Chargers are a division game. Didn't see a lick of powder blue or
not the same. Sure, but also, how many Chargers fans really are there in the world?
Okay. Easy. We're going to get calls. We're going to get letters.
I don't think so. I mean, if the 7 of them listening are frustrated, I apologize. Well, in the proximity part of that is a factor to get to Kansas City. Like, I don't necessarily know that LAX to Kansas City is the easiest flight to jump onto and want to, but I 1000% understand the frustration. I do. I think it's a wild lament for a lot of fans that do get very frustrated. Now, I don't know how many of them are still on the season ticket holder waiting list.
Right.
And maybe that's where the frustration comes to. But I see it very loudly for Packers fans liking to go at different Packers fans, which I just think is a wild thought. I don't necessarily spend a lot of my brain time doing it. Now, in the amount of times that my dad has had his Milwaukee or the gold package ticket. I apologize. People hate when I say that.
Gold package.
God forbid, but they always like to throw it at you and bitch about it all the time. I think he's maybe sold. Good. I think he's maybe sold his tickets twice in 40 years. So, like, as much as you can still be frustrated at certain ones, I think we paint with a remarkably broad brush in a lot of these statements. So that's where I totally get it. I know we want it to be 99% green and gold, and 1% are the Viking fans that are just getting, I think that's a utopia that is far from existable here in 2024.
Yeah, I don't know, Billy. I think it's existable. I think, you're right. I expend way too many hours and like thoughts on this nonsense. Like, there's tons of football to talk about, right? But man, it just bugs me because like the entitled town thing can feel very real. It can feel like, especially after you watch that game on Thursday, a phenomenal game. Packers lose by 3. And I don't know what it was like for you on the OT there, but post-game, everyone's got to get fired. Everyone's got to get benched.
You got to hold these guys accountable.
Got to hold them accountable, Billy.
The accountable is the buzzword.
They lost
that really
a game by 3, and it was a great game. That's the other part of it. Like, that was a phenomenal football game.
Well, and Nags, I think the other part that I didn't fully understand the part of, and the real frustration, and it was more outwardly positive on Thursday night than I anticipated Packers OT to be. Granted, late into the night. Right. So, I mean, people felt a lot better, at certain points in the night. But it was a game in which you lost resoundingly at home a month ago. Yes. And then you went and played to a legitimate 3-point game. Could have gone either way. Whoever had the football last, I thought, was ultimately going to win. So, like, for that to be the change over a month and the evolution of the football team, That to me was a drastic positive coming out of Thursday night. There's no moral victories in the NFL. 1,000%. You don't get anything for that game.
It's just
Albeit gave me a lot more confidence that you can go up there in the divisional round and beat that candy ass.
That's an interesting perspective, and I agree. I'm not going to say shocked. That's too strong, but I don't know if you read Spoon's piece in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel talking about how the Packers shouldn't want to see the Detroit Lions again. And it was kind of anathema and anti everything I was feeling after that game.
Yeah,
I'm with you, Billy. I came out of that game thinking, give them one more crack. I want it, man. I desperately want it. Now, we'll see. The NFL is a tricky beast. And I remember the year in 96 when the Packers won it all. Everybody in the fandom wanted the Dallas Cowboys. They wanted the Cowboys. And they didn't get the Cowboys. They had to beat the Panthers, So sometimes you don't always get what you want.
For sure.
Man, I'd love to watch this team get one more shot at this Detroit Lions team. Yeah,
and I think they will. It matches up too much. Now, granted, this team that you're playing this weekend, you might get 2 cracks at, right? Like you very much might have 2 cracks at the Seattle Seahawks right now. Yep. It's in line for that to be the case. And they're a better team than I think people have given them credit for. You look at Detroit, Nags, and I absolutely had people bringing the receipts back that I said that they were going to win by 2 scores. Did not win by 2 scores. The narrator confirmed. However, I don't hate my logic going into it. And I thought the biggest parts of why I thought they could win the game and should have won the football game did play out as such. I thought they were going to be able to contain, for the most part, Montgomery and Gibbs on the ground.
I mean, that was shocking. It was shocking how well they kind of went to work there, right? I mean, I did not share your confidence that going into that game with, yes, they had been better stopping the run over the last couple games. I subscribe that to game context. Like they got big leads and teams couldn't really run the ball as much. But man, they did yeoman's work. Now, you were about to mention the screens, where they didn't do very good work, but man, the ground game really just was not there for the Lions, which was absolutely shocking to me.
Yeah, and then the screen game, to me, I'm like, there again, this is an unpopular way to look at the game, but at some point you tip your cap that they were perfectly timed calls against your blitzes. And the one to Gibbs where they screen to the left, you bring a pressure off the right. Like, are you kidding me? Congratulations, Ben Johnson. Like, good. And they barely got a first down. So like, I loved the pursuit. I loved what you watched. I loved, as again, losers lament as it feels like, the fight in the second half when that thing could have gotten packed in. The bigger frustration and the reason why I want to see it again and I want them to be able to go back up there is I think there might be a correction again. You win that toss, process over results. Their process going into week 9 when they win the toss, take the ball, and go 14 plays down the field and kick a field goal from whatever it was, 27, 28 yards out.
Right.
The result wasn't what you wanted, but the process was right. I would kind of like them to keep with their taking the ball theory and roll through it and go and try to score a touchdown right away. It helped them because they needed to be able to grab some momentum after halftime. I get it. But they did. They absolutely did. So they executed it to perfection. But I like that process more than just the results. The results worked on this one, so maybe they go to it again. But you strike first on this Detroit team. I want to be there when the house wins on the correction.
Yes.
I want to be the house, Nags, when 104 on 4th down comes instead of 304 on 4th down.
Right.
Because 2 of those were so close to being able to completely change that football game.
100%. And that's the thing that would be fascinated with in a rematch is Hafley's approach. Because look, you're completely thinking differently if going into a game, and you kind of knew with Dan Campbell, but I think he took it to a bit of an extreme in this game, especially that attempt on his own 31. But you have to, as a defensive coordinator, understand you're playing 4 downs. Like 3rd down is and Matt mentioned this yesterday in his presser. You got to start treating 3rd down as 2nd down.
Yep.
Because they're going for it. Especially since they love to run the ball on 3rd down, knowing they're going to go for it on 4th. And they got so many 4th and very shorts. And that's enables it to be a little bit easier to pick up, etc. So that mentality, that has to change. And I do think as frustrating as it was on defense, especially in the second half, I mean, once they lost Williams to the concussion and Bullard to the ankle, they really got, or Halfley really got hamstrung with what he could do and what he could call. And it's frustrating watching them pick you apart over the middle. They got that's something they got to address, because that's happened now 2 games in a row where the teams have just eaten over the middle of the field. And regardless what calls, what coverages, who the personnel are, they have just absolutely given up the middle of the field in a way that they just can't.
Yeah, and those deep digs are going to be hard to defend, especially if you're unable to get any pressure. And this week is one where Geno Smith will light you up if you allow him to chill back there. And
back there,
he can move around, right? That was more what he leaned upon when he first came out of West Virginia and the way he played. But now he is very much a pocket passer, wants to pick you apart from back there. And if you don't get pressure on him, he's something like 77.5% with a clean pocket in front of him. So those are going to continue to be an issue if they don't get more pressure on there. And Nags, I think a lot of why they struggled to bring more pressure into that second half. We talked about it on Friday and on Monday. This has got to be a complementary football team. You just can't start the way they did on offense and expect your defense to not wear out at the end of the game. And
I mean, what was it? 70 plus plays to 40 plus
to 40,
plays?
45, I think it was. Yep.
Yeah.
73 to 45.
Packers, I think, converted 1/3 down. I mean, that's
1 of 5. Like, you just can't do that.
That's an extended drive. That's more opportunities. And that is helping your defense get a little rest. You know, it's just, it was tough. It was crazy because so many people were so mad about the defense. And I'm like, the only reason they're in this game and making the comeback that they are able to make that comeback because the defense kept them in the game early on. That second drive in particular, when Gary gets the sack, like those are opportunities for the Lions where they're not scoring points, you know?
I like this. I like this Rashawn Gary mean mug that we're seeing here too. I like seeing this a little bit here coming later on into the year. I'll love this in the chat from your boy Crossfire asking if the Packers can go get Mason Graham in the draft. Crossfire, I got bad news for you. You're gonna have to lose a lot of football games to get that kid, right? Like, not happening.
Right now, the Packers are slated to pick 26th.
Yeah, he's got a better chance of being the 6th pick than the 26th.
Than the 26th pick, exactly. And this is the Packers kind of lament every year, right? Like the idea that, you'd love to go get those premium guys, but they're always kind of picking in the 20s. That's how
I'd prefer.
That's hard.
I'd prefer to pick in the 20s than the 2s.
Me too. Especially this year because we got that good long wait in Green Bay. You know, maybe a libation or two while we're waiting. You know,
but I got bad news for you, Nags. I mean, I think there's going to be Chiefs fans there. I think there's going to be Lions fans there. I think there's going to be Bears fans.
Oh, you mean at an event for all 32 fans? You know what I mean, brother. It's not we must protect this house during the draft.
Not AJ Hawk, click clack. We must protect this house.
Lord. Try and get me going. I'm fighting, man. I'm playing hurt today, so I don't want to hear it.
I'm excited.
I don't know nonsense.
I'm excited. It's gonna be a fun one. This is gonna be sponsored by a lot of caffeine, a lot of energy, and a lot of excitement. AJ Dillon's gonna join us in 40 minutes from right now.
Yes, sir.
One of the things we just talked about there, Nags, in the front, I want to ask him about is when you are on offense, knowing you're going to be going for it on 4th down damn near every time.
Yeah.
How empowering is that as an offense? Because, dude, those guys were so confident that they were getting every single one of those 4th downs this past Thursday night.
No question about it. Every time.
We're like living in that world. This is Aaron Nagler. I'm Billy Schmid. I like living in this world where we do Carry the G radio on Tuesdays on 97.3 The Game and Cheesehead TV YouTube. We got a lot of Cheesehead TV YouTube comments here as well. Super chats to get to, and NickLayLaw.com talking text line messages at 877-794-1973 to get to. It's Nags and Billy. It's Carry the G on The Game.
Make my dreams come true. Oh, yeah.
Care the G Radio rolls on Tuesday afternoon. Aaron Nagler holding it down with Bill Schmid. And Bill, I gotta say, we were talking about mostly the defense there in that first segment. I want to flip it over and talk about, man, what were they thinking? What were they thinking coming out of the gate, trying to hit a shot play yet again in that building? I understand it was dramatic and effective last year, but you and I talked about this all week leading up to that game. Just the idea of you found your identity. Which is Josh Jacobs, which is running the football, which is being physical. And then you come up and give up a 7-yard sack and you're clawing your way out. And just, I understand, like, look, you don't go in there going, I'm going to give up a sack. But, they were gunning for bear. They were sending pressure and tons of different types of pressure. And, man, the Packers offensive line did not handle it well. And I don't know if they were not ready for the moment or what, but, man. That's a game where I thought for sure you're going to come out, you're going to be firing off the ball, telling that offensive line to go establish things, and it was the exact opposite. I was surprised at.
Yeah, and a little bit. The thing that I was more surprised at, I wasn't surprised with the play call. I was surprised with the play of Zach Tom getting his lunch handed to him by Zadarius Smith.
Well, I don't know if you saw the replay. Like, there's a moment hesitation there where it looks like there's some kind of miscommunication with him and Sean Ryan. I don't know what possibly it was, but like he got to Zadarius late. No question.
And that's something that you don't necessarily anticipate is your best offensive lineman not being able to block at that moment that their number one guy and to not have the communication right is even more frustrating. But listen, the fourth drive of the game, that was what I anticipated.
That was what I thought the first drive.
That is what I thought the first drive of the game would be. And I remember tweeting out like, this feels like the best time for Josh Jacobs to be welcomed into the football game. And 10 of 12 plays, put it in the belly of number 8 and let him do his thing and let him just impose a little bit of an attitude on the game. And that is a clear edict when he comes into the football game and he really starts trying to take over the football game. You can feel their attitude turn and change.
The whole thing changes, right? I mean, you can feel it. You can see it. It's almost tactile, as far as just the attitude, their ability to work on offense, everything flows off of it. So for them to come out and look, man, those first 2 drives are so hard to watch. And then you get Matt, okay, I see what you're doing. I see the pressure, and calls the perfect play.
Yep.
To burn it. And it is successful. And you give the ball away. I mean, man, Christian Watson, I love this kid. I love this player. He is maddeningly inconsistent as a player.
Yeah.
Like, you can pick a thing. Like, it's just inconsistency. And it drives you nuts because all the measurables, all the athleticism, the explosiveness, it's all there. We see it. You saw it later in that game. He smokes homeboy up the right sideline. That player is waiting to emerge as a force. But, man, right now he's still, A, young, and B, really inconsistent.
Yeah, a tick too inconsistent to be able to count on as the true number 1 that everyone knows that his talent allows you to see him be.
Right.
With that moment, he's about to get Kirby Joseph ACL'd, and he's like, I'm going to make sure that I am not on this guy's hit list again of the other dudes that he takes out with that knee shot. But it's a difficult beast, Nags. Like, you felt, I don't know if you did as well at that exact moment, like, you're not going to get any bounces tonight.
Nope.
And it continued, right? You didn't get any bounces on Thursday night, especially the bounce off of Christian Watson, which I think is even his bigger play of the game. Not the one where he coughs the football up, but where he gets called for this offensive pass interference that you and I were texting about after the game, and being even more upset about after post game when
it's flabbergasting.
You don't lose the football game because of it. However, you sure as hell am in a much more precarious situation to win the football game.
Made it a lot harder.
Makes it a lot harder. And I would still love to know the full explanation under how we rolled out of the pocket. It's not the read. It's not the number 1, 2, or 3 read. Larry McCarron's literally like, hey, he's got Josh Jacobs. Before anyone knew.
Wide open.
That one, and now I will get frustrated all over again. And it's not, again, you don't lose because of the officiating. You simply don't.
Got to overcome
However, you got to overcome it. But when you feel the bounces that way,
Yeah.
You can tell like you're going to have to go win the game. And then still, and this is again why I have more confidence in them being able to go in and win a game in there. If and when that happens again in the middle of January, I think, check notes. I think January 18th is the Saturday night in Detroit. I think that'll be the Motor City Showdown for the number one seed in the NFC.
Let's go.
And that's when you go in there, roll through Detroit in a very similar fashion after, I don't know, maybe you end up as the 2 seed and then you beat Philadelphia in round 1 and then beat the number 1 overall seed on Saturday night.
I love where you're living. This is so great.
In the divisional round. And then, oh my God, look at this Vikings team. They've upset the Buccaneers. They won another game now at home. And then all of a sudden you're really cooking with gas and you go up there and beat that candy ass on the way to the Super Bowl.
Amazing. I love.
Oh, I can outline it. Thanks.
You're you're living there. You're like,
you can see it now. You can see it now as the.
I don't know if I see it, but you're drawing a really good picture. Like, I love it. I like
this is playoff prediction season right now. Not only for the NFL's prediction, but now I'm already into brackets for my fantasy football.
I see this.
So I am understanding how, and I'm outlining paths, Nags, to championships because we are not finishing in 4th place again. All right. The absolute worst possible place for you to finish in any fantasy football league. Because if your league is giving out money to the 4th place finisher,
right,
your league is broken and you need to get into a league with winners. All right. 1, 2, and 3. There's no such thing as spot 4 and 5 on the podium. All right.
I was just going to say, they don't, what is that? They don't hand out platinum medals. There's nothing below the bronze.
Correct.
Like, what are they doing?
And this guy has lived in the 4th place spot. All right. So that is done. No. That is done now. And that's how we are drawing outlines to championships. How about that?
Let's give Mike Witt a shout out here.
That's what I'm talking about. Mike
YouTube
Witt.
Chat.
He's on the way to a championship. Mike Witt.
It might be just me. This season's Chiefs team reminds me of the 2011 Packers, just barely winning, and then the Giants and Eli happened. I don't think I fully agree with your police work there, Mike. I mean,
that's interesting. He says the Chiefs.
Yeah. I mean, 2011 Packers were putting up insane amounts of points and beating, especially early in that season, beating the brakes off people. I mean, there's that great story that Ryan Grant told when he was on Cheesehead TV about when they were beating the hell out of the Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just demolished them, right? Yep. They're up by like 3 touchdowns at halftime. And McCarthy goes into the locker room at half and absolutely reads them the riot act because they're not winning by enough.
That's awesome.
And Ryan, when he tells it, it's great because he's like, I looked around and I saw a couple rookies and I was just like, remember this moment because this is not normal. This is not your usual NFL kind of locker room halftime when you're up by 3 touchdowns. Like, this is crazy.
I don't get from Mike. I don't get Chiefs vibes of 2011 Packers.
Yeah, no.
But the other number 1 seed could.
Okay.
The other number 1 seed does. The other number 1 seed gives me a little bit of those vibes.
NFC number 1 seed?
The NFC number 1 seed. And again, it's the same team that we just watched. Now, I 1000% say that team is the best offense right now in football. The 2011 Packers were a historically great offense.
Great. Yes.
But also think of some of those games on that 2011 run towards the end of the season. Wasn't there a 38-35 shootout against the Giants at MetLife Stadium, if I remember? And Jordy Nelson had to make a ridiculous catch along the sideline.
A left sideline, one of the most insane catches you will ever see in your life. Yes, sir.
And Nick Collins get hurt early in the season, but you barely squeak by the Panthers. Like there's spots and towards the end of the season. Now I wish nothing upon the Detroit Lions like happened to that 2011 Packers team in the building on the personnel staff. Right. But man, you can be one bad day away from looking up at halftime and saying, how on earth are we down 2 scores and we got to climb ourselves back into the game?
In the playoffs?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Doesn't take much. Doesn't take much.
In it?
I will say, though, I mean, man, as much as I would love that, obviously, for the Lions to get bounced, I have a hard time seeing it. I really do. I think that is a insanely well-coached team. Just look at the fact that they had, the Sisters of the Poor there across the defensive front. I mean, they were down to 3rd, 4th stringers, guys who they literally just picked up. They had Jamal Adams off the street playing linebacker. Been in the building for like 3 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
well-coached team, man.
Yeah, Nags. I just when you're talking about picking practice squad guys off for this week and that week, that's always great. That's great for this week and that week. When you're
Right.
counting on them for 5, 6, 7 weeks at a time, at some point that potentially comes back and bites you. Now, I like this one from Dan in the 715. You guys dipping into that Carry the G beer cooler this morning? Packers have maybe a 50-50 chance of making the playoffs. Losses at Seattle and Minnesota, maybe win one of the other, 7 seed at best. Now, Dan in the 715 is a incredibly negative individual and loves to live
what we call a
in
hater.
this spot. Yeah. He
Right.
he said the same thing on post game on Thursday night and has been
Right.
trying to get that text read, I think, on every single radio show that we do, because he's texted it about 5,800 times that they're a 50-50 chance to make the playoffs.
I mean, here's the
I
fun
don't
part.
live in that same spot that Dan does. They can actually make the playoffs in week 15. That's the furthest thing from a 50-50 chance. But if he was my math teacher in school, if Dan in the 715 was doing my math was correcting my math homework,
Yeah, you'd be 100.
Nags, I'd have done a whole lot better on that ACT. I mean, goodness gracious, your boy would have had a lot better GPA.
Well,
because that math assignment would have looked a lot better.
I was talking about percentage chances. I loved Andy Herman picking this one up. The fact that prior to the Lions game, the Packers had, per the New York Times playoff simulator, a 99% chance of making the playoffs. A little different than 50-50. 99%, Billy. And then they lose to the Lions. What a catastrophe. Guess what their percentage chance to make the playoffs is after the loss to the Lions?
97%.
98%, sir.
Hey, there we go.
98% chance. They went down 1 percentage point. So
it's
get
a
out of
tick
here.
different than 50-50.
Nonsense.
Tick different than 50.
I mean, you got to live as a hater. I appreciate it. You know, that's the water you want to swim in. That's your prerogative. Fan how you want to fan. We're not here to gatekeep, not here to tell you what to do as a fan. But 50-50 is ridiculous. Come on now. Come on.
I just needed you to be able to hear it, because I'd read it too many
apparently
times.
are dealing with it every day. So
read it too many times. Read it too many times, and I needed Aaron Nagler to be able to deliver a little bit of frustration. I'm like, come on, what are we doing here? How on earth are we living there?
What are we doing?
What do we want to do? Who hurt you so
point,
you
right?
have to do
It's
that?
a choice, right? It's a choice to be that negative all the time.
That's fair.
a choice.
Now,
you
that
can
is fair.
choose life. You can choose joy. You can choose to be positive about your favorite team, which I assume is your favorite team. Maybe you're a Bears fan, or maybe you're just a classic hater. I don't know.
Well, listen, Dan is in the 715, and he's close to Vikings country, so he hears it from a lot of Viking fans. But listen, don't let their built-in pessimism change your lot in life. You're in a much better spot. You're in a much better place. You cheer for the Green Bay Packers. Absolutely. You don't have to wear purple on Sundays. That's such a better life to live.
That's a win right there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
that's
it is.
a big
No
W.
doubt about it. Nags, I don't know how we do this each and every week, but we're like, dude, we're already 40 minutes in. We're 20 minutes away from AJ Dillon stopping by, having a conversation with us, talking about this Packers-Lions game going into Seattle. How difficult is it to play in Seattle? What's the vibes like after a nice couple of days off? And we got a lot more around the NFL to talk about throughout, because there's a couple of stories that I got to get your take on.
Oh, there we go. And now I'm ready to piss everybody off. Let's do it.
Because I can't wait to watch Bill Belichick coach college football. And I wanted
Toledo. Wow. Amazing, right?
And it seems like we're closer and closer and closer to that potentially happening. We'll give you the latest update next. That's Aaron Nagler. I'm Billy Schmid. It's Carry the G Radio on Cheesehead TV and 97.3 The Game.
Hey, the G Radio, round and out, hour one. Aaron Nagler here in New York City. Bill Schmid in the greater Milwaukee area. Bill, what's going on? What's going on with your namesake there in North Carolina? And what is happening? What is happening in this world of ours?
Potentially the greatest story to ever grace sports content. Bill Belichick potentially going from being the most curmudgeon, angry in press conference, seemingly game passed by former coach, said, "You guys don't think I can relate to these young people? You guys don't think that I have interpersonal relationships with people in their 20s?
Oh my God.
Hold my carry the G beer. I'm going to North Carolina where my daddy was a coach, was an assistant coach.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring my son to be a coach, and we're going to go coach them Tar Heels." I'm like, dude, that is arguably the greatest story to potentially ever happen. If Bill Belichick ends up taking this job, now many people, we're in a good old-fashioned insider off.
Source off, right? Yeah, I saw some of that.
Sources all over the place. Diana season, not done.
This has happened. This is not done. This is going on.
Some guy named Ali said it's done.
Sounds like it's verbally agreed upon. That's where I think it's living right now. So
I also don't think it gets this far, Nags, and there not be a lot of smoke. Now, I don't know if the smoke has fully come out that there's the new coach, but it to me would appear that there's a little bit of fire down there.
Well, I loved his kind of pitch on McAfee yesterday. I mean, he got out ahead of it, man, talking about how you come to my program, you're going to be pipelined to the NFL. We're going to coach you like the NFL, treat you like the NFL, nutrition like the NFL. Like, it's going to be get ready for the NFL program. Not this kind of, we're just running all this nonsense you're never going to utilize in your pro career. Yeah. I mean, that's a pitch, man. That is a pitch. And I in the world of the NIL as well, I'm fascinated to see how that plays out.
And I've been wondering if somebody was going to go this way, right? I was wondering if somebody was going to pivot from let's be the most into graphics department. Let's make sure that we are as open and in love with the Gen Z group and make us as flashy as possible. Or, hey, I won 7 Super Bowls. Can I let you know what I can do for you? I won championships.
Let me tell you what I can do for you.
I will let you know how to get to the NFL. I will show you what it's like to be in the NFL. And whatever this little chump change that you're making in college for your $750,000, and you can go to the transfer portal and go play somewhere else for it. Congratulations.
That's great.
Because I'm going to find a way for you to get a second contract in the NFL. That pitch nobody is doing right now. Nope. And I do believe, Nags, it is the next part of the NIL era in college sports. Now we're going to talk to AJ Dillon coming up in about 10 minutes. His alma mater, BC, hiring Bill O'Brien. I think Billy O is going to try to do a little something similar where this is an NFL program. We're going to teach you how to be in the NFL and get you ready for that. It's different than we're going to dominate college football, but I think it might work. I can't wait to watch it play out. I really can't. I mean, and Belichick, he's almost an enigma, man. Like, it's so. Yes, totally. You think you got him kind of, like you were talking about, kind of squared away, and you know what he is and what he's going to do. And then I love this possibility. I know exactly. It's not official yet, but it feels like it's trending in that way. And wow, that'd be exciting for college football. I mean, no two ways about it. It would be, and it also would. I like that we try to say that we know everything, act like we know everything about these guys, and know nothing. Yeah, we don't know jack. I think everybody just assumed like the only reason why Bill wanted to coach again was to break the record. Right. And sure, I understand why that would be the built-in thought and the premise of like he's 15 wins away, 16 wins away, whatever it is, from breaking Don Shula's all-time record. The guy also loves football. So like he might also just want more ball than anybody. And has forgotten probably more than anybody knows. So like for him to just want to go and coach football, to do it with his family, to do it in a place that he at one point grew up, like I think it's an amazing way for you to tie a big old bow on an amazing football life. Career, yeah. And who knows? You know, what if they end up going to a college football playoff? He hands over the reins to Steve Belichick, and his son is the coach there for 10, 12 years, and he sets them up for success. Like, I know people don't love nepotism in sports, but I got newsflash for you. It is never going away.
Nope.
Sports and broadcasting are the two industries, and I know everybody else working and listening to the sound of our voices has seen it potentially in their industry. There are two that it's arguably the most prevalent. It's never going away,
Never
and it
stopping.
also has brought us some real diamonds. So let's see if this
Truly.
one ends up, or it'll end up going into a dumpster, but he'll have to prove it after.
It'll be a disaster, but it'll be fun to watch while it happens.
Yeah.
No, I think it'll be successful as hell. I really do. I think it's going to be maybe not a game changer, but it will be fascinating. It'll be, kind of swimming in a different direction in the stream. I think it's going to be,
Yeah.
like, it's just, I love it. I just love the idea of Bill coaching again. Feels
Totally
weird
do.
to not have him on the sideline. Really,
Yeah,
does.
and I do love the idea that he is potentially got a good tutor for their philosophy homework or psychology homework, whatever it was that him and Jordan bonded over at one particular point in time.
I'm not touching that.
I know these young people. He said,
lovely.
"I know these young people now, Nags. I know
Amazing.
these young people."
Amazing. I mean, he said that into a microphone. Absolutely incredible. God bless you.
Just
God
awesome
bless you,
stuff.
Bill.
Oh, awesome stuff.
So on the flip side, we got to do what? We got to talk to AJ Dillon. We got to talk
Yeah,
about.
that's a get to thing. Yep.
Got
Yep.
to
Get to
wrap
talk to
up
AJ Dillon coming up.
this Lions game. Kind of put a bow on that, and then get ready for the Seahawks game. Man, I'm telling you, it's gonna be a tough one.
Nags got that little bit of a head tilt. You're a little nervous for
game.
this one. You're a little nervy for this going out
nervous,
to the Pacific
but it's
Northwest.
gonna be a tough one. It's gonna be a tough one. And well, hell, I mean, have the Packers looked good at any point in that stadium in recent past vintage? I mean,
Zabe had the stat today. 11 consecutive times the home team has won since 2008 in this back and forth.
Just saying, man.
Do you dare call it a rivalry?
It feels like it isn't anymore. It was when like Legion of Boom was going on.
Mm-hmm.
But now, not really.
Yeah, I'm with you. At one point, there was some good smoke there.
Oh yeah, big
now
time.
it's just like, all right,
Richard Sherman yapping at like a whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Now go throw your fish at your market and go and enjoy the Space Needle.
Look
no
at
one
your
really cares
needle
about Seattle.
or whatever.
Yeah, no one cares
Yeah.
about Seattle. I'm sorry. Is that mean? Should I not have said that?
You're just full of smoke today. I love it.
I'm brave. Listen, we haven't even talked about Iowa or Nebraska. Like, you really want me to piss some people off? I can go there and we can fire this bad boy up in the last hour. But I think we got enough. We got enough to talk about with the Packers. I think there's more for us to get to.
We'll get on the backside and we'll talk more Packers. We'll talk with AJ Dillon. That's Billy. I'm Aaron. Here's the reset.
Yeah.
And to all my peoples in the struggle, you know what I'm saying? It's all good, baby, baby.
Shake it.
It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine.
Carry the G Radio rolling on into hour 2 with some smooth, silky sounds from Bill Schmid there.
Hey, it's one of the guys we can still play. Come on, still play him. Still playing Biggie. No one can tell me otherwise.
Never,
We're still
never
playing
gonna stop
Biggie.
playing Biggie.
And
Absolutely not.
Luckily, that's not going to change because we're not going to hear anything bad.
No, sir, absolutely not.
That's what I'm excited about. No bad things coming our guy Biggie's way. So that's a necessary deal. That's a necessary thing for us to be done with these conversations.
It's also necessary to talk to AJ Dillon each and every week here on Carry the G Radio, and the man himself, AJ Dillon. Wow, joining us. AJ, how the hell are you, man?
Doing well, man. How are you guys?
I've gotten past it, AJ. Thursday, that hurt. It was tough, kind of marinating in it all over the weekend. But Monday comes, and now I'm looking forward to Seattle. So I'm good. How are you? How was your weekend?
The weekend was good. Like you said, marinated in it a little bit. I think when you play on Thursday, when the game's on Thursday, you get a little time to let it go. You watch some other games, see some other teams, win some, lose some, and, ready for a new week, ready for Seattle.
Did that turn for you at one point watching Receiver last year on Netflix? They did a great job, and I loved George Kittle saying, like, all right, I used to despise Thursday Night Football. It was my least favorite thing in the world. Then he's like, how about I find it as a good opportunity to take 2 days away with my wife, recharge and recalibrate, where it seems like you can turn it. It's obviously a difficult thing to play on the short week, but to be able to turn it and get it into that positive, it's all mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, no, for sure. It definitely is. And I do think that we call it kind of like a mini buy because you get like a 2-day, So I know some guys got out of town, some guys stayed in town, but just relaxed. So, for what it's worth, recharge or get away, whatever it needed to be, you do get a little bit of time after kind of getting fast forwarded to a game, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Now, it was a tough one, a tough loss on Thursday night, but if you're able to, and obviously you're literally on the team, so it might be a little difficult, but can you step back and go, wow, that was a really good football game? Because it was. I mean, that was a phenomenal game of football.
That was. And for what it is, I mean, if you're an NFL fan, if you're a football fan, that's what you want your Thursday night games. There's a reason why you get the Monday night games, the Thursday night games. You want best on best. You want the stakes high. You want rivalry. You want fandom. You want last minute fourth quarter drive. Obviously, it didn't tip in our favor. And of course, everybody on this call would have loved a win for sure. But like you're saying, if you take a step back, that was a 10 out of 10 football game. That was a great football game to watch. And as a football fan, you got to enjoy that at least.
Yeah, and do you take it as AJ? People are always like, "There's no moral victories in football." Okay, yes, we get it, but can you take some solace in it? Is there something to build off of when you played that game a month ago, and the score maybe wasn't as close, or it was closer than the game actually felt, and then it's a neck and neck game in their place? Can you take that, and is that a loser's lament, or is that a real deal?
I mean, I don't think it's a loser's lament. I think that's just facts. Facts are facts. We're getting closer. Third time's a charm.
Third time it'll be a charm.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes. There we go.
Hey, there's definitely no wins. There's a win and a loser. We lost. It is what it is. Okay, move on. But we got a great opportunity in front of us. We got games against some good teams in front of us. So we got to lock in on that. No point in licking our wounds. Everybody knows you get to playoffs, which first we got to do that. But once you get to playoffs, it's a brand new season. And so whoever we see then, when we get there, when we take care of business these next couple of weeks, once we get to that point, all bets are off. We're just going. And anybody in the way, all the way down to New Orleans,
there you go. There you go.
This is going to be a fun Mardi Gras show. I'm very excited for this show when we're in New Orleans. That's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. AJ, you mentioned there in your little kind of description of what you're looking for in a Thursday night game or the primetime games, is a rivalry.
Yep.
And it's interesting this week. coming off that game against Detroit, I know you're somewhat online, but for those of us who live online for work and maybe have in the past maybe talked some junk to Lions fans or opposing fans in general, man, that's an emboldened group right now. They feel like they have the Packers number. They being the Lions, they certainly feel that way about their team. My question to you is, as someone who's in the locker room, how do the guys feel about it? Because man, it got frosty. It got testy there at times in that game, especially early on. How are you guys feeling about the Lions?
I mean, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I would say I don't think that anybody in all reality takes too much time out of their day to think about the Lions or anybody else, any other team. I think it's all fun and you like it and you like it building up to the game. But then once the game is over, it's like, all right, like on to the next. Like we got a job to take care of. Like going and taking, like trying to argue with people. It is what it is. We got a football game to play. There's winners, there's losers. We lost. They're feeling good about themselves right now. That's great. But we don't hang divisional banners at Lambeau. So,
correct, sir.
You know, we got stuff to take care of. And we know what our ultimate goal is. And we got a lot of football left in this season.
See, and I expected, Aaron, a very mature answer there from AJ Dillon. We leave the pettiness and the immaturity to me, okay? Because the flag planting and all that kind of back and forth, that's always fun and good. I love the pettiness. I love the get back. But at some point, you mentioned it right there. There's a winner and loser, and you lost. And there's a way to lose, and then there's a way to potentially not lose, like we saw all across college football a couple of weekends ago.
Yeah.
In this day and age, it's a lot easier to just vent frustration, but I don't know how much it benefits you. And it does appear that everything is geared in the right way of, hey, you can't, Tucker said it yesterday in the locker room, where he's like, I'm so done talking about Kirby Joseph. All right. If I see him in the divisional round, we'll talk. But for now, we got eyes looking forward, and it's not doing anybody any good to keep talking about week 14.
Absolutely. Gotta move on to the next week. And I think, you know, there's a way to win, there's a way to lose. And unless you're hoisting Lombardi, there's 31 teams that are
31
gonna
losers.
you know.
Very true. Very true. Well, looking ahead to this game on Sunday night, I mean, watching the Seattle Seahawks, man, these last few weeks, they're playing a tough brand of ball. Like, they can run the football, and they've got a really good defensive-minded head coach who seems to be giving teams some problems now, especially kind of back half of the season. Really feels like they're somewhat hitting their stride in that regard. What do you see when you look at the Seahawks?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say they're a really good. I'd say they're a really good football team. I'd say, you know, looking at this back half of the schedule, I think there've been some people, like I've kind of heard or had conversations at dinner, or somebody will come up and like, oh, like we're just gonna waltz into like we start playing some very good teams coming up. I think the Seahawks are one of them. I think they've got a lot to play for as well over there in the West. There's a lot at stake for them, and they got some key players. So I think it's one of those things. And once again, we're going to go on the road. I have not. It's one of the few stadiums left that I've not played in, which I'm a little bummed because I've always heard playing out there is awesome. So, but you know that they get rowdy, and so it's going to be another one of those where, hey, you got to buckle your chin strap and like we got to go play. They play a physical brand of ball. They play together. They're a good, solid team, coached well, but definitely a very winnable game by all means, and one that, quite frankly, like we gotta win and build upon.
Some people think that it's more just fans talking about it, but you've said it a couple times. Physical brand of ball.
Yeah,
you guys are playing a physical brand of ball as well right now. How different is that, and how much more emboldened is that as a feeling of knowing you're taking it to some people, right? When you're punishing folks, that's a dominating feeling that you can have on a field.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's part of the game, and it's honestly the one thing that's different besides if you're talking like boxing or UFC or wrestling, like that really separates football from all these other sports. Like, yeah, I get it. There's, you know, you got to hit a baseball, and mathematically, like that's the hardest thing in sports to do. I'm not taking anything from it, but the fact of the matter is this game, at its core, you're in a dogfight against a guy across you who's stronger, who has more will for 60 minutes. So, like, at the end of the day, you come to these late games in the season being able to have your entire team fly around, hit people, like that's football. Like that's needed.
Yeah.
All the other stuff, the pretty stuff and the trick plays, that's great. But at some point, when you get into some of these games and you're going good on good, best teams in the league, it's at some point it's just about who can beat up the other team. Like
Absolutely.
that is football. That is professional level football. And so it's awesome to see our team flying around, our defense flying around, our receivers blocking on the edge. Guys like Tucker, I feel like we're always singing his praises, but just
For good reason,
leveling
though,
guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
You look at Rasheed Walker last week throwing the guy,
Oh my gosh.
all that stuff. Like that's great. That gets an offense going, defense, a team going, and you need it. You need it for encouragement to keep going out there just as much as to rile you up. Like
I'm sure, right?
Everybody's tired this late in the year. Everybody's bodies are feeling up. People are banged up. But when you see your guys going out there straining, we talk about strain a lot. When you see your guys straining, fighting, putting their all out there, like it's like, all right, I can do this for a little bit longer. I can push through. I see what we're trying to get to, what our goal is. So it's very encouraging to see that, and makes me feel very confident in what we got.
I'm interested you use that word straining, because that seems to be a new Matt LaFleur messaging mechanism this year. It's something I haven't heard him talk about prior to this season, but now he's mentioned it quite a bit. Is that an underlying message that he's giving you guys?
Yeah. So I don't know. I really, not even because I tried to not see it or anything like that, but I don't really watch much of the pressers. So I'm assuming
you're a smart man for that.
I'm assuming that's from his press messaging or whatever you want from the meetings.
Yeah.
But as long as I've been a part of the Packers, that's always kind of been something that he's talked about. So if he's talking about it now, I mean, great for everybody to know that. But I think it's something that we embody from OTAs to training camp and on. It's about, he always talks about the strain, and what that is just like that will to go a little bit more than you think you can. And so in OTAs, when everybody's tired, it's like, hey, you're going to need to call upon this in week 15.
Right.
But that's and I'm not trying to get super motivational or anything like that, but David Goggins, who everybody can point to as this guy, he's
bona fide badass.
He's just bona fide badass, like does everything, and there's nothing the guy can't do if he puts his mind to it and all that good stuff. But like you can get excited and motivated by that guy any day. But there was one thing he said once, and I'm probably going to misquote it, but he mentioned just, he doesn't want to wake up every day and go run the miles and stuff like that. But he's had so many times where he's felt like he couldn't do it and just did that. Like when he needs to, and he needs to tap into that reserve tank, he's just like, well, I've been in this situation overcome. I've been in this situation. I've had a broken this or hurt this, or I was sick this day and I still got it done. So yeah, like I might feel terrible today, but I've done much worse. And so it's that kind of strain. It's like, oh, we're in the dog days of camp. We got another full pad practice today. I mean, that's way worse than or whatever. You know what I mean? Like we can pull on that and be like, hey, well, we were in practice going up against each other, and that our defense is a lot harder than this.
Right.
Or, we didn't have a break. We didn't have a water break and TV timeouts during this. Like we can, you know what I mean? And so it's just kind of building that callus, that strain is definitely something that I think you're seeing our guys. Like, how are you still playing this well and playing with this kind of strain in week 14, 15, and so on? Well, we practice hard, we play hard. And you do that to build the calluses to help you out later in the season.
And now some people like to call them cliches. I like to call them classics because they're true. Now you talk about it with that part of it. One of the cliches that people say is playing for each other. Going out throughout the better part of the tail end of last year, it was so evident that the group was playing for each other.
Yeah.
Again, it sounds like an easy thing to do. I think it's one of the most difficult things to get a group of especially adults to be able to do it in professional football. How unique is that? Because it does appear again like that is really starting to click here in the back half of the season. And I just think it's one of the most dangerous things for a team to be playing for one another when you get into January.
I definitely think so. I think you hit the nail on the head, and everybody always says it, and this, and one of the things that people always say is like, oh, your team's a family. every team is not a family. First of all, our team is, and it's great, it's fantastic, but like, it's just
Dysfunctional
one of those
family,
things.
maybe.
It's a lot easier said than done, especially like you said, you're getting grown men from all ages playing on a team, professional, and they're getting paid. This is not college. This is not high school. The last time you're playing purely for fun is like Pop Warner, maybe high school, before you start trying to like go to college. Because then you're like, oh, how can I get the stats to go? And you know, so when you're dealing with this, you're dealing with the best athletes in the world, the best football players in the world. You might have a guy in year 17 who's done everything and he doesn't even care about the money anymore. You might have
Right.
a rookie, undrafted guy. You got a first rounder. You got to deal with all these personalities, all these things. You got somebody with a wife and kids. You got somebody who's living the single life to their fullest. How do you get them all on one goal? It's very hard. And that's like the unsung heroes and things that go on with the team. It's like, oh, well, all these teams are exactly the same. No, everybody's probably, if you line them up, just as talented as each other, you know,
Right.
to an extent. But it's like, how can you get the guys to be locked in or make sure that they're really taking everything serious? I think that culture piece is very hard to do, and it's not just one person you can point at. It's, you know, having leaders on a team, great mentors and coaches going beyond the X's and O's. I think that's very hard to do, and it's something that our team has. And so, like you're saying, to be able to play for one another in such a egocentric world where everybody wants to know how many points this one guy has or this or that, how can Jaden Reed not necessarily have a bunch of targets this game, but go put out a bunch of great blocks to bring Josh Jacobs on a run and not worry about, oh, I didn't get the yards, so people are going to be upset, but I made this huge play happen and our team helped get a win. So there's a lot of that going on our team, and that's really cool to see. And with that, I think we were having a great season. I don't think a couple losses define us. I think we've been building and had close wins, close losses. All that stuff is going to benefit us in the long run.
It's interesting you mentioned the culture because it's something that I've talked about pretty much since Matt's come in the door. It's so almost unquantifiable, that idea, and this is like an old Parcells thing, and like knowing which buttons to press. That's an old saying, and it really feels like Matt has a great handle on that aspect of it. And it's, again, it's hard to pinpoint. You can't, there's no metric for it.
Yeah.
But it does seem like he knows his teams really, really well.
Yeah, I think he does, and I think we've got a great. Obviously, it all starts from the top down, but I think we've got a great like network within our team. Like if you think of like a or maybe a Venn diagram, if we want to
There
go
you go.
back to
Now we're
like
talking, yeah.
middle school, you know, Venn diagram, and it's like we have really open communication. One of the big things that we preach on our team is just like communication. You got something bothering you, everybody in that facility genuinely, if like you are part of the Packers legitimately, like they want you to be successful in whatever capacity it is, whether you're the janitor or you're the head coach, the GM, or you're a first year guy, undrafted guy on P squad that's just showed up Wednesday. Like while you're wearing that G or wearing the G on your name tag, like we want you to be successful and have a great time at your workplace. And so I think it's one of those things where guys feel comfortable, whether it's maybe not Coach LaFleur, but they feel comfortable talking to their position coach. Or if not either one of the coaches, they feel comfortable talking to Jordan or Rashawn or whoever it is. And then Rashawn can talk to Jordan and Jordan can talk to Matt. And there's that sense of like community and just like open communication is so big. And I feel like that's how 99.9% of problems get solved. It's just people don't or like
Right.
people just don't communicate on things. And so when you're trying to read between the lines, you get missed messaging. You know, so that's what I think we do really well on, and just having places and outlets for people to talk to one another when it comes to problems. And I think it just allows people to feel more themselves. And I think it's not necessarily, sorry, it's a little long winded, but you were saying
they're not here to listen to us, AJ. They're here to listen
Thank
to
you.
you.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
please.
you were
Take all
saying
the
like
time you want.
pressing the right buttons. And I think it's more so just like allowing, when you get to this point and you're dealing with professionals and professional athletes, it's not necessarily about trying to make everybody cookie cutter. It's really just how can you let everybody be themselves? Like how did so how Dontavian Wicks got to this point, and Romeo Doubs got to this point, and Christian Watson got to this point, it might all be different things. And it's a lot less of like trying to change everybody into being, this is my stereotypical receiver. It's how can you do what you do best and feel great going out there and doing it. And I just use the receivers as a point because I got some Packer stuff in front of me and I was looking at it, but it's just like, that's what I think we do really well. That's what I think LaFleur does really well, allowing people to be themselves in whatever capacity they feel comfortable and letting them do that and giving them the resources to do that. And then it's like, hey, you be you, but play the best football you can. Are you comfortable doing this? Go do it to the best of your ability because I believe in you. I trust you. So, yeah, long-winded, but that's I feel like we do that well.
Great stuff.
It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that bar was dropped by AJ Dillon, number 28, hanging out with us here on Carry the G Radio. When you talk about that, AJ, you've probably played for coaches in the past where it's like you said, this is my scheme. All right, we're going to run this. At what point did you notice it? Because it feels like over the last, 5-7 years in football, it has changed to, like you just said, let's see what you do really well, build that in here, and be able to go take advantage. Is that been different and changed since you've been playing? Because it feels like it's kind of a newer thing, which blows my mind because it feels like the easiest deal to be able to do.
Well, I will say I've obviously only played for the Packers, so I don't know any other schemes. But going back to college, I mean, my coach there, Steve Adazio, he was a old school coach, so we just ran the ball, and I loved it. As running back's dream. We just run the ball no matter what. I think I left whatever the last couple of years I ran against the most stacked boxes. We're talking 8-9 guys.
Those highlight tapes are hilarious to watch.
They know we're running. Everybody knows we're running. We're just out there. But I think it's. I don't really know. I don't really have an answer for if that's new in the NFL or anything like that. But I do think it's just common sense, like you said. I think it's common sense things. Like if you're having an argument with somebody or something's not working, how do you solve it? Let's communicate. Open communication. From there, what are you good at? You're good at this? Let me put you in a position to do what you're good at rather than what you're not or what you don't feel comfortable.
I love that because this is what drives me nuts around draft time, especially is when everyone's picking over every guy's game. And it's like, he doesn't do this, he can't do that. And it legit makes my blood just boil thinking, tell me what he can do.
Yeah,
I don't care about what he can't do. Tell me what he can do. And it feels like that's a huge key, but it seems to get lost all the time.
Yeah, it's so key. And then you think like, well, every offense isn't the same offense. So it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, can he work in your offense? Can this guy work in your offense? Yes or no? Like the craziest things to me, as I've now been through the NFL for some years and, seen a couple of drafts come after me and remember drafts before me. It's like some teams will draft guys and they'll be like, yeah, well, he was great, but like we like what he does, but like we don't want him to do this here in our offense. Well, then I'm like, why? You know what his skill set is, like,
right?
And that's the thing where it's you see these clips of guys, and it's like timing is everything in situation and like what team they're put around. Yep. It's like, well, if you are looking for big old possession receivers, why are you drafting a like 5'11"
darting 5'11" guy,
shifty?
Right.
Right. And you're like, well, we tried to put him in this offense and he just didn't pan out. No, dude, like you knew what he was good at. You set him up for failure.
Yeah, and you can grab this box and pack it.
Just like,
it does.
Yeah.
It happens, and that's the thing. That's why it drives me nuts because it's not just fans or media doing that. Like NFL teams do this.
Yeah, like
it blows my mind.
Like every receiver is not the same receiver. Some guys are better at other things. You got to put them in a position to succeed. It's like chess.
Right.
And
now we're talking.
Yes.
Third grade chess club, second place. I took a fat L to Matty Parker in the championship. It was a brutal. Not like I still think about it.
I can tell you think about it every day.
Yeah, not like I think about it to this day at all.
He hasn't thought about it once until just now.
Matty Parker, a huge listener of the show.
I can't think so. I think she's got a lot better things going on in her life. Hopefully, you got a lot better things and a lot more successful things.
My chest depression comes from when we got snowed in Oakley, Kansas. My family and I driving back from Colorado one year, visiting the uncle, coming back, snowstorm, snowed in, could not leave Oakley, Kansas for 3 days. We were so bored. I taught my dad how to play chess, and he beat me the first time he played.
Oh,
True story.
that's pretty tough.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
Talk about.
That's
I haven't.
brutal.
Talk about. I've thought about that a lot, AJ.
Yeah,
That's,
no
that you,
kidding.
that you
My-
talk about
my-
holding an L for the rest of your life.
My
Like,
guy has not played chess to this day.
Yeah, right.
Listen,
That would be smart, but no, I'm a glutton for punishment.
Yeah, do find a great opportunity to get yourself frustrated. All right, holiday season. We got to ask some of the important questions. Dillon House, we going real tree? We going artificial tree? We going one of each? What's the situation here? What's the light situation?
So the plan was to do a real tree this year, and I went to the tree farm, and I was talking to the guy, and he was like, "Dude, you got a 1-year-old? Get a fake tree."
Yeah, it's not a bad call.
So
Not a bad call.
eventually we will be a real tree household, but we got the big tree up. The Christmas decorations went up as soon as Halloween was over, which I know some people
Let's
won't
go.
like.
Yep.
Well,
But
same
as
here,
soon as
same
Halloween
here.
was over, Christmas
100%.
decorations were up. We got the lights around. We got 3 trees. We got one big one, one
Mhm.
medium-sized one downstairs, and then one
Yep.
very small one in my son's room.
Very
See, now
nice.
that was the move that we went with in the little guy's room was the
Yeah.
tree, and that's a great move by the guy at the tree farm because we went with the one real, one artificial. The real tree is a very danger zone for the 1-year-old. Like, I mean, my
Oh.
man is over there. He's like, "Hold on, this looks fun. I can play with this." No, that's gonna cut you. It's not gonna be a good situation. But this is fun if I just poke dad with it, right? This is pretty good. Good idea on the artificial tree,
Yeah.
AJ. Very, very proud
Very
of you for
good
being
call.
And
able
you
to
know
do
what? I don't like to give free promo, but we'll give some free promo.
Hell yeah.
Taylor Creek in Green Bay. I went there. They have these trees, and so we had a fake tree that my in-laws had passed down, and it's been in the family for like 20 years, and so we were using it. But that tree was. It seemed like it's been in the family for 20 years.
For 20 years.
They got the wires all wrapped around. You got to lug
Oh,
this thing up.
no.
It breaks into 4 different pieces. This tree I got at Taylor Creek, and I'm sure they have them at any place nowadays. But instead of they have the lights in them, which is not uncommon.
Huge
Right.
move.
But instead of having to connect on each part of the tree, the wire, the middle pole is the outlet. So all you do is
Nice.
plug in the bottom, the base, and then as you plug in each one on top, each one lights up. Genius.
That's a good move.
Baller.
That's a good
Genius.
move.
Absolute
That's what
baller.
I'm talking about. Okay. See,
Yeah, but
that
then
is working smarter, not harder. This is the stuff that you
The
start getting
strain. That's
excited
the
about.
strain of the Christmas
Yes.
tree right there.
let's
There
go.
you go. Straining for
I
the Christmas
came
tree.
home feeling like $1 million when I showed my wife that. I was like, watch this. Watch this. Let me blow your mind.
Let me blow your mind for a second.
Great to take a cornerback's soul just running over him on power, but when you get a dad win, AJ,
Yeah.
it sure is fun, ain't it?
It's fantastic.
I
You
can say-
you never get enough. You never get enough.
No, ever,
Mhm.
ever.
No,
and
we
when you
don't.
get them,
No, we
you
don't.
kind of get to appreciate it, but no one else cares. Like you just got to kind of like back of your mind, like, yep,
Yeah.
I was pretty baller right there.
Get
That's
real
pretty
good at the personal handshakes. That's
Man,
get
I,
myself on up.
We've had since we moved we used to live in like the Element apartments right next to Lambeau. And we got like one intermediate house while me and my wife were engaged, and they were like, all right, like we were gonna plant our roots, we got a house. And so in that first apartment that I had this pull-out couch in the 2-bedroom apartment or whatever.
Mhm.
And when we moved it, one of the legs broke off and it like completely stripped out of the thing. It was destroyed. And it's been in
Nice.
my basement in the storage room for 2.5 years. It's £1 million, but like it's still functional.
It still
And,
works.
all this time at the house, I'm looking at this thing, I'm organized. I'm like, I wake up, I'm like, I'm gonna fix this and I'm gonna move it in the guest room.
Come
And
on
so
now.
I go to Ace Hardware. They got me the drill bits. I'm in there. I rented a
Damn right.
dolly, the
Look
whole
at you.
shebang, 1-man team. I was full sweat, dying. This thing was falling over on top of me.
Oh, good.
But hey, it's there. It was in place, and like you said, one of those things where I'm like, nobody else will know. What I just went
Nobody
through.
else appreciates that.
I had to take the legs off like 3 times because it didn't fit through the door. But I did it, and it felt so good.
Bro, you don't understand how much I needed to hear somebody getting that win after I put not one,
Yeah.
not 2, 3 fat old holes in the wall as I was trying to bring the couch downstairs this weekend and then had to admit defeat. So I needed somebody to be beating them couches.
Somebody got to win.
Hey,
Somebody got
That's
a
what I'm
W.
talking about.
Hey, you just gotta have that spackle on hand.
Yeah,
listen,
always.
yeah.
Especially
Luckily,
with a
living with
1-year-old.
6 guys in college, AJ, I learned how to be able to patch that hole up pretty good.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be able to figure that one out.
You're
But
fine.
Yeah, that was tough. That was
Vibing with AJ Dillon here on Carry the G Radio. AJ, you're an absolute legend joining us every week. Cannot thank you enough for the time, man. Hopefully, we're talking about Victory Tuesday next week after that big one in Seattle.
Tuesday.
There we
some
go.
chicken for it. Come on now.
I'll bring the tacos.
There you
That's
go,
what I'm talking
baby.
about.
Thanks so much, AJ. Have a great day.
Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate it, man. That's fantastic. And now,
AJ Dillon, just holding it down, man. How great is that?
Can go from one topic to another. Nags, a lot of times when you throw things like, "Hey, what do we got for the Christmas setup?" People are,
Right.
"Oh, sorry, I prefer to not talk about my."
I got a tree. Like that's what I, would probably expect the answer to be to that question. But man, my man brought it.
Brings it. And tune in to Dylan, also the podcast. You can go check it out and subscribe there for whatever they got going on. They got always some awesome interviews coming up. Holiday season. I know they're going to get some Green Bay Packers in there. Tucker Kraft been on the show. Manuel Wilson been on the show. So always fun. And he is the goods when we're having those conversations.
Totally, man. He doesn't hold back. And like he's talking about, like, I'm sorry it's so long. I'm like, dude, my guy. Talk
my brother in Christ. They want to hear you. They want to hear from you.
As long as you want. I'll tell you what, Billy. On the flip side here, we're gonna get back to this Seattle game and one unnerving development. I mean, it is Seattle, so I don't know why I'm surprised, and I'm probably not surprised. But it's supposed to rain.
Oh, come
on Sunday night
in the cappuccino capital of the world? No way.
Hopefully, the Packers are ready for it. Handle it a little bit better than they did in Lambeau against the Lions.
We're going to do better because we're going to catch all them fish over at their market. We're going to fry them up, fillet those bad boys, and enjoy it.
That's what I'm talking
Not
about.
me, though, because I ain't eating anything that swims.
You're one of those, huh?
Yes, I am one of those.
That's more. 100%. That's more for me, so I'm fine. That's good.
Yes,
I like
more
that.
for you, but even more of Carry the G Radio on the other side, which people can't get enough of. So it's on the other side with Aaron Nagler, Billy Schmid, right here on 97.3 The Game, and Cheesehead TV YouTube. You don't want to go anywhere.
Say, oh yeah, welcome you.
Bill Schmid throwing down a banger on this Tuesday afternoon. George Michael, Wham, a classic.
It's when you know it's Christmas season, when I can just bust this bad boy out. Mariah Carey comes out of her cave, and then you instantly know that people are celebrating the holiday season.
It is Christmas season. I absolutely adore it. It's the best time of the year.
Now, this is what I've always been told by you New Yorkers, that this is when you guys just flex your muscle as the coolest place in the entire world, right?
I mean, I don't know if it's the coolest place in the entire world, but it's pretty dope. And this is a great time to be in New York during the holidays. It is awesome. Although, they're just changing some things. Some stores aren't doing what they used to do, etc. But you still got the tree light, lit up, and you got all the stores are doing amazing windows, and it's just a great vibe in the city.
And you got Yankee and Met fans fighting and one soda.
How adorable. How adorable is it to hear Yankees fans lament not being able to pay?
It's just glorious. Oh, it's glorious.
This year of our Lord 2024, this is one of the greatest developments in the history of sport. Not just in the sport of baseball, in sport.
Yes.
Yankees fans crying about not paying a guy.
And for it to happen with the crosstown rival, right? For the Mets to finally get one over on them. Now, I don't have a dog in the fight. If I did, one of my childhood friend when I was younger was a big Yankee fan. So I cheered for the captain, right? So I had a little bit of pinstripe on me when I was, 6, 7, 8 years old.
Right.
Couldn't care less about either one now, but I love to be able to get the real angst. And, we got blessed by Matt Schneidman conversation yesterday on No BS. He joins us each and every day.
Was he wearing his Yankees hat?
He was wearing his Yankee hat, but he was still fighting. He was feeling good. He was feeling okay.
Yeah.
But then he also started swinging, right?
Of course.
Good for Mets fans to finally feel like they have something a little bit. And he did throw this out there, which I appreciated. He said it's a little Bears-Packers-esque, where Bears fans will go and start spiking the football in the offseason year in and year out, feeling like they are
the Mets.
AKA the Mets. And, here are the Green Bay Packers here in the pinstripes. Just wait until, the real games start.
I mean, he's not wrong. He's not
I
wrong.
love that part of it.
That's pretty spot on.
Is Queens just, lit up? Or are people just in awe of the Juan Soto sweepstakes? Or are people just like instantly, well, I got to go to work, so I really
I was going to say, what's funny? There are certainly people who are excited. There's no doubt about it. But where I live in Astoria, Queens, it's much more about anything going on with like Premier League or any of the soccer leagues, much more than it is about anything having to do with baseball. I'll tell you.
I love that. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, because I don't know all of the soccer that I probably should. Yeah. Similar in baseball, where the biggest teams and the biggest brands are always spending way more than everybody else picking over young players, right?
Big time, yeah.
Because people say that this baseball thing's broken. This baseball thing's just never going to be able to sustain. My man Tim Allen's going to come up in about 20 minutes from right now, brew the offseason, talk some Brewers baseball. I would completely differ, because those leagues, last I checked, Knicks,
they're doing okay.
Most successful in the world. They're doing
all
right.
Yeah,
they're doing
okay. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, look, it can be frustrating if you're a lifelong fan of a team that's never going to have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like somewhat being a Brewers fan, knowing there's a ceiling.
Yeah,
there's a ceiling. When you see, I mean, what was the stat someone threw out there yesterday, or whenever the signing was announced, that Stearns spent more money on that contract than he did the entire payroll of the Brewers while he was in Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Does anyone see a problem with this at all? I don't know, man. That's where I get so frustrated with baseball.
Yeah, but then the best thing is you can still beat them in a 7-game series and then laugh in their mouths as they sit there and cry, shaking naked in the field. That more conversation comes up in Brewers conversation, brewing the offseason with Tim Allen in about 20 minutes from right now. So you told me a little unnerving situation with this Packers Seahawks game. One thing that I have a little unnerving feeling about going into Seattle, Nags, is you got to be able to get some pressure on Geno Smith, because if indeed he stands back there and has time, they have the weapons to really take advantage of a banged up secondary.
Yeah, they really do. And who knows? I mean, we won't get a look at the first kind of injury report of the week until tomorrow when they're back on the practice field. Man, it'd be great to get Jair back out there. And we
you ain't lying.
Keep saying this every week, but I don't feel great about that possibility, Billy. I mean, the fact that he went from a limited participant 2 days in a row last week, even though one of those is a walkthrough, et cetera, to being listed as a did not participate on the final day doesn't bode well. That's a man going seemingly in the wrong direction. So
Yeah,
I don't
and,
love
and
that.
I don't know how you feel about it. We get a lot of text, and some people are frustrated about it.
Oh, people are really frustrated. Yes. Yes,
Absolutely. You want to see Jair Alexander on the field. They're a much better football team when he's on the field. But the frustration that I've gotten a couple of times is more with the team of not putting him on IR right away. I understand it because if there's any possibility he can come back
sooner,
4, you got to take it, right?
I get people being frustrated by that, but at the same time, man, we are way outside looking in on all of this stuff when it comes to injuries. I mean, they have the medical information. I don't know, I don't bristle at it, but they're really good at what they do in that building when it comes to the medical side of things, from McKenzie to the trainers and everybody. So, yeah, it's probably a bit of a gamble, so to speak, to say, okay, if we put him on the shelf, he's out for 4 weeks, there's a possibility he might be back before then. So they play those odds, right? Now, it hasn't transpired. Sure, seems like it's not going to happen, but I understand that kind of approach. He's your best corner. You absolutely, if you can get him back sooner rather than later, you absolutely want to try and play those odds. So,
and it's kind of what they do, right? Like, I mean, I think about it last year with Watson, there were like 2 different stretches where probably could have went on IR. Didn't. Could you have used another body? Maybe. However, if that guy is on the field,
things change.
It's better than the body that you're finding on a practice squad. Like, that just generally is going to be it.
100%.
I don't know how you feel. Very interested. It doesn't appear Javon Bullard week to week. That's dangerous news, but could have been worse.
I was going to say that's some really good news. If you're watching him go off the field on a cart, and then the reports, I think Schneidman was the first on it, walking out of that building on crutches. Man, I certainly wasn't ready for Matt LaFleur to say, "Oh, he's week to week."
Yeah, it could have been
good news.
Could have been far worse for him.
100%.
Availability this week, though, in your estimation, Jair Alexander, Evan Williams. What one? I mean, obviously Jair Alexander, more accomplished player, but the amount of moving parts, which one's dicier in your eyes?
It's tough, man. With Evan, I mean, he's in the concussion protocol, right? So we'll see, how that kind of transpires throughout the week. But he's pretty damn important. Although I will say, man,
give us some love.
Zane Anderson held up. He was
a good-looking lad right there, too.
Fully expected it to be way more of a train wreck with him out there than it was. Obviously, Lions moved the ball. They scored points. Not what you want. But it wasn't like, guys were running down the field wide open and, like, Zane Anderson's looking at somebody going, was that my guy, or anything like that. Like, he fit the defense, and he played well down by down. So that was a pleasant development. And if you give the guy a full week, maybe he's got a chance to help you out a little bit if Williams isn't able to go.
Yeah, he stuck his very, very nice looking head in there a couple of different times. That's a jacked up lad too. I mean, did you see those? Did you see those veins popping out of those biceps? No, that wasn't ammonia that he was enjoying over on the side. That guy was fired up.
He was.
All natural testosterone and energy, it feels like. So I'm excited to be able to see if he has to go. But I'm with you. With Evan Williams, the amount of moving parts that they potentially have there, that's one you got to be able to see.
You got to get him out there. Wait, so now is this music? We're going into a break, and then we're back for a final segment, or are we wrapping
We're back up? Then we'll be back for a final segment. We got one more to play. Is that
very good? One more to play, and then we're going to talk about what you were talking about at the beginning there, which is got to get pressure on this quarterback.
Amen.
Got to do it. Got to do
That's
it.
We'll talk about that
on the flip side with Bill Schmid, Aaron Nagler here, Carry the G Radio, wrapping up right after this.
Oh, we got it.
Carry the G Radio wrapping up here on this Tuesday afternoon. Bill Schmid holding it down there in Milwaukee. Aaron Nagler coming to you live from New York City. Billy, you're talking about needing to get Geno on the ground. Got to generate some pass rush. You are correct, sir. Now, here's a promising thing, or it should be.
Come on now.
From our buddy Felipe, who is a contributor at Cheesehead TV. He dug this up. The Packers have generated 35 pressures over the last 2 weeks, and they will be facing, on Sunday night, the 29th ranked offensive line in pass blocking efficiency.
That's what we like.
Which sounds great. Then you add in Geno Smith is the only quarterback in the league with double-digit interceptions while facing pressure.
Come on now.
Formula is there, but all I keep thinking about is the week leading up to the Giants game last year. Well, Tommy DeVito's been sacked a million times. The Giants' offensive line is terrible, and the Packers didn't breathe on Tommy DeVito all night long. So
yeah, you're not lying.
I don't know by hook or by crook. I don't care if it's numbers. I don't care if it's simulated pressure. 4 guys getting home. Maybe a miracle occurs, but they have got to get Geno off the spot.
He's got to get pressured. He's got to get rushed. He's got to get hit. And there's a couple of guys that I believe are playing in a fashion that is going to. I wanted to ask AJ Dillon about Kenny Clark, Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee for the second time in his Packers career. Had a baller game.
He balled
on Thursday night.
Out Thursday night, yes.
Excited to see if he doubles down and continues this close of the year. And hey man, don't look now, but Rashawn Gary's gotten stats in the last few games, huh? Isn't that something else? Isn't that something else? Let's be cheering for the guy wearing the G instead of just peddling our narrative that the guy is not worth the money. Turn it around. Let's have ourselves a big day. Let's have ourselves a fantastic Sunday night.
Big day. Big
and the
night.
Packers win 27-23.
Ooh,
in Seattle.
27-23. I'm going to go 27-24.
Ooh, okay.
Manis kick at the end to win it.
Aaron Nagler says hold at the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Go and get that 2.5. Wait until it changes up there again. I think you're going to grab it. But if you get 2.5 again, right there into
perfect
the ATM, or as they like to call the kiosk. Yeah.
The kiosk,
turns into an ATM when you start betting on the Green Bay Packers. Hopefully, that should cover that number.
My goodness, we'll see. Well, I think we've talked about it, man. I want to reiterate, underline, italicize. It's gonna be a tough game.
It's gonna be tough. Well.
Their defense is putting quarterbacks in hell.
Oh, big time.
3-4 games.
And Mike McDonald is going to have a lot of teams thinking that they might go to a defensive-minded head coach if they're getting this kind of production on offense and on defense. I'm super excited for it. Super excited to also have a Victory Chicken Tuesday or a Victory Taco Tuesday, as AJ Dillon said he's going to be bringing the tacos next week.
I'm all for either of those occurring. No question about it, though. Tough game. Packers should win. This is a game the Packers should win. They're going to buck history, going to buck that trend of all the home wins in this series between these two teams. Big win for the green and gold on Sunday night.
Let's get it. Let's do it. And let's be right back here coming up next week, Nags. All right?
That's what I'm talking about. Can't wait.
That's what I'm talking about. That's Aaron Nagler. I'm Billy Schmid. It's been Carry the G on Cheesehead TV in the game.